Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. Erick Gonzalez versus Trevor Peek. Look, Gonzalez has been fed to the wolves. He's got a 14-7 record, but he was 14-5 coming into the UFC before he was fed to wolves. Jim Miller in his debut, Terrence McKinney in his second fight. Shit, I should have said sophomore effort. But anyway, Terrence McKinney went pretty much right through him. He was hit with one nice punch, but got him out of there with a rear naked choke in round one, which is how Erick Gonzalez has been finished every single time, aside from Jim Miller, who got him out of there maybe like 9 seconds into round two. So, pretty much round one. But the Jim Miller fight is the relevant fight here, in my opinion, because that's the only time he's been knocked out, Erick Gonzalez, as a pro or an amateur. Despite his 7 losses, I think 1 is an amateur. And Jim Miller did knock him out with a left hand, but I do think there's a reason Gonzalez, well, I don't know. I've seen Gonzalez step in like that on the amateur circuit, but without paying attention to those fights as closely as I did the Jim Miller fight, I think Jim Miller really opened up that knockout by working him down low. Jim was hitting him with plenty of nice kicks. I thought he was winning the kicking battle, and Erick Gonzalez just looked like, I don't know, he totally dismissive of Jim, stepping in gingerly with his front leg, and Jim just met him with a big left hand once he was in range. So it looked bad, but it's the only time he's been finished, Erick Gonzalez. Now, Trevor Peek, I say that because Trevor Peek's got 7 wins, 7 TKOs, or KOs, and he's definitely got power, and he insists on the knockout sometimes. Really, the Kama-worthy fight is the perfect example of that, insisting on the knockout. You know, he had seconds to go in round 1, and he was fucking relentless. He didn't let up. I think he knew if Kama's going to lose, it's probably by knockout, but still, to get it done is something else entirely, and he got it done. I guess you can call it a combination, I don't know, but he hit him with like the 5th punch of this wild, fucking weird combination. And that was after slamming him around, too. So, which, you know, that's another aspect of Trevor Peek, you know, his game. A lot of his finishes come via TKO on the ground. The one in the Contender Series, which I'll talk about next, and this fight against Ben Brewer that he had. Ben Brewer, I think he fought in his 3rd fight or 4th fight. Ben Brewer had an 11-5 record before retiring or stepping away for one reason or another for like 5 years. And then he returned, and his first fight was against Trevor Peek, and he was much bigger than Trevor Peek, visibly, and much more seasoned, and was throwing down, but Trevor Peek outlasted him and outworked him, ground him out in round 2, despite the size and experience advantage, which you can dismiss because he took that fight after 5 years, but it's still a very consistent effort. I can't call it a trait yet because he's only got 7 fights, but I like what I've seen from him, especially in his last fight against Malik Lewis, where he got his ass kicked. He was almost finished for like 90 seconds straight, on the feet, on the ground. Every second was a nail-biter, and he somehow survived. Might have been like 3 minutes, by the way, but the last minute of the first round, he turned things around, and not really turned things around, but he got up, turned into Malik's guard, got up all bloody, and I think he knew before that round was even over, yeah, I'm going to get this finish. And a few minutes into round 2, it was over. He grounded him out, pounded him out, and it was an excellent comeback victory, really cool win, and probably one of the best fights on the Contender Series. And just between, you know, his fights, a few fights I've seen from him, for 7-0 pro, I can't say he's the best technically or even tactically, but he absolutely has a lot of great traits as a fighter. He's got the heart and the grit. If you're not going to better him completely, technically, or knock him senseless, he's going to be there fighting hard, you know? And I like that about him. I just think there's a lot of room for Erick Gonzalez to win this fight, and he's my prediction and my bet. Gonzalez has 2 inches of height, 5 inches of reach. He's never been knocked out. He's been defeated plenty of times, was finished plenty of times earlier on to guys that you can pretty much call no names. He did lose to names Humberto Banderas and Rafa Garcia by decision, current UFC fighter. And since then, he was finished coming into the UFC. Jim Miller and Terrence McKinney, showing, he's got weaknesses everywhere. He's not great everywhere, but he's a guy who, at least on the regional scene, was a little more dominant with his wrestling. I think he's going to need wrestling here. Not need successful takedowns, but need to make Trevor Peek think. He's going to need to confuse him to open up his striking. Make use of that 5 inches of reach, Slow Trevor Peek down a little bit. And I would like to think Gonzalez has more in him, experience-wise. On the feet, the little nuances and the feints and all that. And on the ground, I would think he's better than Trevor Peek. He's got to bully him around. He's got to be able to hit those takedowns, or at least attempt them. And then on the feet, make use. Make use, especially down low. Trevor Peek's not a great kicker. Erick Gonzales should have a few advantages here. And I think he's a almost 2-to-1 underdog because he's looked so shitty against really good competition and established UFC fighters. This is not one of them. So as much as I'm high on Trevor Peek and kind of hoping he wins this fight, take away my bets, and yeah, I'm behind Trevor Peek. But introduce the odds, and I'm going with Erick Gonzales. I would go with decision or knockout. He's got 14 wins, 8 via knockout or TKO, and 5 via decision, only 1 via submission. But I really like his money line here at plus 180. Decision or knockout is plus 210. So I like his money line here, plus 180, Erick Gonzales. I think just, matchup-wise, there's a lot of room for here to expose a newcomer, a guy with a lot of promise, but, no proof. All right, like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.